Welcome everybody to another edition of TalkingWithHeroes.com talk show program. I am Bob Calvert, your host, and we're in our final interview here with 4 Carsons 3BCT 4ID 1/8 Infantry. We're going to be talking with the battalion commander now, Colonel Col Digiambattista. And we'll be right back with him. And first I want to thank the people who made this trip possible. Blackhawk.com, Newsblaze.com, MilitaryConnection.com, FreedomHunters.org, LauraBurgess.com, Number5Jump.com, SoldiersAngels.org, and BroadbandForAmerica.com. Okay, it is a privilege now to introduce the 1/8 Infantry Battalion Commander with the 3BCT 4th ID out of Fort Carson, Colonel Col Digiambattista. Welcome, sir, to TalkingWithHeroes.com.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure, by the way, being with all your soldiers over the last 4 or 5 days.
Great.
It's been really clear about the progress that's happening here.
Good.
And what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, though, to get us started for our viewers, is tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how long you've served.
I'm originally from Southern California. I grew up in Cypress, and then I went to high school in Anaheim. I went to school in New York. I've been in the Army since June 1st, 1991, so just over 19 years now. I'm an infantry officer and have been an infantry officer since I was commissioned. This is my 3rd deployment to Iraq. My first deployment I was in Bacubah. My second deployment I was in northeast Baghdad near Sadr City, Adamiyah, and this time we are in Maysan province, located near Amara, the capital city of Maysan.
Okay, if you could kind of go back a little bit and just describe the changes you've seen over the 3 deployments.
Yes. Well, my first deployment in 2005-2006 in Bacubah. During that time, the Golden Mosque in Samara was destroyed, and that began an incredible level of sectarian violence throughout Bacubah and the Diyala province, and the violence continued to escalate. And though we had fairly well-trained Iraqi security forces, just the sectarian nature and the brutal, gruesome attacks continued. It was very difficult to find a way to mitigate that, and training and development of the security forces were not always successful in making a difference. My second tour in 2008, we were in Adamiyah and Sadr City, and this brigade, 3rd Brigade, participated in the actions in Sadr City in May, June of 2008. Pretty significant fight. We were in tanks and Bradleys. We used a lot of air weapons teams and aerial delivered munitions, but we were able to quell that violence in partnership with the Iraqi security forces. And the culmination of that was we had built a wall through Sadr City, and we were able to deploy 2 Iraqi brigades north into Sadr City, and they were able to take control of that area. We thought that was pretty significant at the time, but now to come back on this trip and work with security forces that have learned the lessons that we were trying to teach both those past 24 months, it truly is amazing. There's one brigade that we are partnered with down in the south of Maysan, and they continue to operate very much like an American battalion. Their talk is maintained standard. They maintain their vehicles. They conduct operations and intelligence briefing on their own every Saturday night. When we first arrived, we didn't even know they were doing this operations and intelligence meeting, and we discovered that about a month ago, and we've been attending it. And the commander commands, and he sets goals, and the officers and soldiers actually execute what he's told them to do. It's truly an amazing thing to see a unit that's functioning on its own, setting its own standards, fulfilling its own missions. And it gives me a lot of belief that we're on the right track to see that happen every day. In fact, my XO was down there earlier this week, and it's very unusual for Iraqis not to ask for something. It's kind of in their nature. And he was set to leave, and the lieutenant colonel in the Iraqi army who was escorting him hadn't asked for anything. And the XO said, well, is there anything I can do for you? And the lieutenant colonel shrugged his shoulders and said, no, we got everything we need. And I think a major pulled him aside and whispered in his ear, and he said, well, we do have one air conditioner that we could recharge with coolant. And I thought that was pretty amazing, that that was the only thing that they were going to ask us for overall. Not everywhere is like that, not everywhere is that advanced, but we certainly do see great progress. In fact, yesterday there were some attacks throughout Iraq, and today, clearly the Army and the police are working together. I counted about 5 checkpoints that were new today on the road, stopping vehicles, checking them, and so you see an event, a reaction, and actions taking place to prevent further attacks. And that truly is a sign of things changing and progress.
Yeah, I could see the difference in Baghdad from when I was there in 2007. There wasn't really a lot of police out there, and this time they seemed like they were everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
They certainly are proactive. They're definitely trying. Sometimes they don't understand. Sometimes they don't quite have the will to finish strong. But there are many of them that have learned, and there certainly is a great thread that will continue forward after we leave.
Now, this New Dawn mission that's been announced by the media, and all the combat troops are, coming home and all that. Obviously, what we're hearing here from all of you is there's about 50,000 here, and there'll be new ones take their place. The mission is different, but really, you've all been doing this mission now since you've been here. Advise.
Exactly. We're an advise and assist brigade. We were designed that way. We knew we were going to have that mission before we deployed. What that means for us is we've got extra leaders attached to the brigades that are specifically designed to train Iraqi leaders in specific tasks and advise and assist them in doing their job. And we are arrayed throughout the province so that we can best get access to the chief of police for the province, the Iraqi division commander, the commander of the federal police, and other Iraqi units. And then with that, we also have a mission to support the provincial reconstruction team. And so we ensure they've got security, and we also help with some of the project tracking and make sure that things are moving right, so that the State Department is also supported here in their efforts. What's important, though, is that the mission isn't over, and the 50,000 of us that are left are here to advise and assist the Iraqis to make sure that the security forces are strong, the government is capable, and make sure that those soldiers that have paid the ultimate price here in Iraq have not died in vain, and that we do everything we can to make sure that Iraq is stable and is a strategic partner in the future with the United States.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I have Gold Star families watching the videos, like from Afghanistan, and they really appreciate seeing that, because they're hoping that their loved one didn't die in vain, and they're seeing it.
Right.
They're seeing it.
It is each day. In fact, we're gonna do some internal training to review how we do force protection, how our platoons operate tomorrow. And one of the teaching tools is an event that happened to our brigade the last time we were here. And just bringing that out, we had some video from that and some records of what had happened. And it's a good teaching tool, but at the same time, it brings back, at least to me personally, memories of what happened and the importance of what we do, so that those soldiers that lost their lives in that incident, they're not forgotten, and their sacrifice continues to push forward in our efforts here in Iraq. And I think that there is enough push. The Iraqis are showing enough effort behind it that we really are solidifying that change we've made.
Absolutely. And I did talk to the PRT people since we've been here. Stories are great. I wasn't able to go out on a mission with them because the seats were all taken. But I'm planning on coming back early next year and actually going out and filming these projects, because that's good great for people to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is very hard to describe what reconstruction and what projects mean. But in America, so often you take for granted that the toilet flushes, the faucet turns on, the light switch flips the light on, and those things just don't happen, especially here in Mason. Probably 50% of this province lives in mud huts with maybe a small generator, and often livestock live in covered buildings while the family lives in a reed hut. So the basic essentials that we have provided over time are very important. We're not really in the business of providing those things anymore. We're looking to the Iraqi government to do that, but there are still efforts that we can make to improve the government, improve what the government does for the people, and the PRT is doing that and doing it very well.
Yeah, what we're saying is you're teaching them how to teach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, there are processes. Democracy doesn't come easy.
Mm-hmm.
We've been practicing at ours for 200 years. They've been practicing at theirs for maybe 5 years.
Right.
And so the nuances of how to run a city, the nuances of how to budget, those things are difficult. And that's really what the PRT is working at, so that they can govern themselves within their constitution well and correctly.
Great. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything you want to say to the American people about continuing to support the mission, to support the troops here, and the families back home?
Absolutely. Yeah. It is a difficult thing that we do. We remain in harm's way. Though combat troops are left, there are still threats to what our soldiers do. And so every day as we do our job and advise and assist, there's still that threat that has always been there. And our soldiers perform with the same valor that they always have in Iraq. They understand the threat, and they go forth each day to meet that and continue to do the will of the nation. I don't believe that America's support for what we do here is going to change,
Mm-hmm.
but it is important every day to remember those soldiers that are here, as well as their families back home who might pay a tougher price than we do. Because each day we're fully engaged in what we're doing. It is hard, intellectual, physical effort to get done what we do here. But our wives and children back home, there's an empty space at the dinner table. There's someone not in bed with you at night or in the morning. There's no date to go with someone on a Friday night, or no one to see a baseball game. And the support that our families get back home from the American people is critical to help fill in that gap in their family life and the growth of their children and everything that families need. So we do appreciate all that support to our families and our soldiers.
Great. Speaking of families, would you like to give a shout out to family and friends back home?
Sure. Well, it's always an honor and privilege to recognize my mom and dad for everything that they did for me and taught me and trained me, and then of course my lovely wife, Lori. And I miss you greatly, honey, and I can't wait to come home and see you again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. As I mentioned earlier, it's always great after we've talked to all the soldiers that you, the commander, come on, because you give a bigger picture. You see things in a larger way. So I want to thank you very much. And okay.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Okay. To everybody watching this, as I always say, please tell other people about this video. Let's get the word out about our troops' stories, the progress stories, about supporting our troops to millions of Americans across the country. This is Bob Calvert on TalkingWithHeroes.com, reporting from Iraq, and we'll be back with more next with the North Dakota National Guard in Basra.